welcome one and all. Winter Wizard here, and in this video I'm going to be unveiling the secrets of how to paint the Bionics in the colour scheme of my Adeptus Mechanicus army, Forge Phobos. Very much for joining me today, whoever you are, and welcome to episode 1 in Painting Forge Phobos, my new series that I'm doing, where I'm going to be unveiling all the secrets and all the tips and tricks for painting the colour scheme of my Adeptus Mechanicus army, Forge Phobos, the Cult of Fear. So I just want to quickly explain what's going on with this series. For every army that I collect, I do one of these. I'm going to be doing one of these in-depth painting series, and the idea of the series is to completely run through and break down and unveil all the secrets of all the different aspects of painting the colour scheme for the army. So the series will be broken up into episodes, but what I do is I take one model, one signature model that's got lots of different features and is a really good representation of all the different aspects of the colour scheme, and I break it up into episodes focusing in on a different aspect each time. But if you watch all the episodes, then you'll also get to see a single model painted entirely from start to finish. So we've done one of these for my Death Guard army, the Drowned Plague. We painted up Gut Rot Spume, and now it's Forge Phobos' turn. And I was trying to work out which model would be a really good one to do. And I've always looked at Belisarius Cawl here and thought, it's a beautiful model. Really would love to paint that. Really would. But when you play Belisarius Cawl in game, you have to take Mars, and I don't use Mars as my Forge world. Forge Phobos, they follow the dogma of Styges. But I was looking for a model for this series, and I thought, well, here's a perfect opportunity to paint a model that I might not normally get to use. So the way I'm justifying this is basically the Archmagos. He's popping over to the moon of Phobos. He's going to have a little chat and a cup of tea with old Deimos Terron, and as a mark of respect for all the fine work that the Cult of Fear have been doing, he's going to clad himself in the colours of Phobos. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be painting Belisarius Cawl from start to finish over this series in the colours of Phobos. And in episode 1 here, we're going to be looking at the Bionics. So what does that mean? That's going to be all his metal parts, basically, all his metal body, the armour plating that we've got here, all the piping and cables and all that good stuff. We're going to be looking at all of that and covering all of that in this episode 1 here. Oh, it's cold and lonely here in Winter Wizard's Frozen Fortress, but it's a beautiful overcast day. It's about early afternoon. I've got a nice cup of tea over there, Terran Gold, and I'm joined as always by my friend and co-host, Norwegian Troll, Dimmu. So this is going to be nice, just going to be nice and relaxed. Do a little bit of painting, and I'm really looking forward to getting on with this series. So enough chit chat, we're going to get started now. So I'm going to show you what paints we're going to need, but the first thing we've done is we've given it a nice spray, a nice prime coat here, and I've used Army Painter Spray here. Gunmetal is the colour. Just it's really the perfect place to start. It's going to save tons of work, it's going to save tons of time. So much of these models, AdMech models, are made up of metal parts, and so that's really going to cut down a lot of the time-consuming process. And silver, I do tend to find, is actually just a really good starting point for a lot of colours anyway. The base colours seem to go on really smoothly and really nicely on top of that. You don't tend to need too many coats to make things shine. So that's the base, that's the priming done. And what other colours we're going to need? We're going to need some Leadebelcher base coat, a little bit of that. I've got Runefang Steel, a nice brighter silver for some highlights. We're going to be using a little bit of Abaddon Black. What else? So that's going to be for the body, it's going to be for some piping. For the armour plating, we're going to use, really lovely colour actually, this is a Runelord Brass, really nice one. It's going to be for all the armour. And we're going to need, yes, for cabling, like little wires and stuff, we're actually going to use Thunderhawk Blue layer. Use some of that, and some washes. We're going to need some trusty Nuln Oil. Going to be using plenty of that, and some Agrax Earthshade. And for today, that's all we're going to be using. Alright, so we're going to get started here. The very first thing we're going to do is Belisarius and a lot of the Admech models, they got these, well, I call it piping. It's kind of the sort of ribbed effect, tubing and stuff here. So I want it to be metallic, but I want to separate it from the rest of all the metal bits going on, because there'll be quite a lot. So if you can distinguish between the different types of metals, that normally does help with the overall appearance. So what we're going to do with that, just going to paint it silver, but we're going to make it a darker silver. So we're going to get some Leadebelcher here and some Abaddon Black. And we're going to make a mixed, about half and half, and we're going to fill those in. So always give your paints a shake. You can hear a clicking noise right there. Well, that's because great tip for you. Buy these ball bearings here. Just little 5mm ball bearings here. Always pop one of those in a paint pot, and it just really helps with mixing the paints together. I think Army Painter, they sell them as little paint mixing balls, and they cost you like £8. Or you can go on eBay, just look for ball bearings, and I think they cost me something like £2. And I got little tubes of plastic here, which used to be paint, you know, like your covers on your paintbrush, just to hold the pots open. A little palette there, just a trusty little brush. This is actually a Games Workshop starter brush. I think it's brilliant. I use it for so much. You just need a base brush or a layer brush. So what we're going to do, we're going to take some of this from the pot, put it on the palette, and make a bit of a mix. So we're just making a darker silver there, like so. And we're going to just work around and pick out all these pipings. So there's one on top of his gun there. So this is going to give it a nice dark foundation. We're going to apply some washes to it as well. So that's that done. You'll only need one coat. Some bits on the floor down here. Might add just a little bit more black to that. Just darken it up. And there we go. So it's still metallic, but it's a darker looking metallic. Just going to separate it. You don't have to do this, but this is just what I do. He's got some sort of like nest of these things coming out from underneath him. There's one there. Being generally neat, but you know, we're going to around the cape and stuff, but we're going to be covering all that up again with other paints later. There we go. See how different that looks? I think it's nice, a nice touch. Just going to just work around, fill all those in. And then they'll be ready for some washes. Like so. So all the piping, all the ribbed sort of metal tubes, fill those in with a darker shade of silver, about half and half, silver and black. I'm going to finish up picking those out, and then I'll show you where we are from there. There you are. So that's all the dark metal piping done. You can see it just adds a nice little point of interest there. Just really separates them from the rest of the silver. You'll also see that there's some blue on the model as well. All these little pipes and things. We've just gone round and done them in the Thunderhawk Blue. I just had a little bit of a hiccup with the camera and lost a couple of takes. So I was going to run through all that with you, but essentially we've got the Thunderhawk Blue, and this is all for the smooth cables, basically, for all the cables and tubes here, not the ribbed ones but everything else. So this is just going to add another little point of interest, another little colour to separate from the silver. So take that, this one at the back here, I'll just give it another coat just to tidy it up. All these smooth pipes, smooth cables rather, all of those, and you could mix up the colours. Might add a little bit of green, might add some green ones in there at some point, but these little things, they're all over the place as well, so just take your time to find them. There's some on the end of his solar atomizer here, and then tucked under his belly, these little, there's a couple of like little bunches of ones, little groups of ones, bound with these little silver rings. So you can pick those out as well. But yeah, so I've gone around and done that as well. And once that's fully dry, we're gonna, I think we'll apply some washes. There we are then, so we're going to move on. I'm going to get some wash on this model. I'm going to start with a Nuln Oil, nice black wash. Blue tack, trusty blue tack to stick that down. Pop that open. So in an ideal world, the Nuln Oil, the black wash here, is going to be for all the metal. So the dark metal piping that we've done, you can put it on the cabling too. All the metal, everything on there that's metal, his arms, his weapons, his axe, all those bits. And the armour plating, we're going to do that in a brass, but what I'm going to say is just slap this wash all over the model, on the cape, just everywhere. Get it everywhere. The armour, the cape, the skulls, just save yourself some time and just slap it everywhere instead of going around trying to pick out all the different pieces. Just get it everywhere. And you really notice the difference when you put washes on these models. They just, all those details, they just really pop. I'm not overloading the brush here, but I'm being pretty generous. Get a nice wash all over the place here. And even on his clothing, all the little bits. Even on the blue cables, make them a bit dirty, greasy. It's nice. It's essentially important that you make sure that everything's dry before you start doing this. Otherwise you start making quite a mess. Just leave the model, let it dry naturally, or encourage it with a bit of a hairdryer if you've got one. And there we are. You start to see it looking good. So we're going to carry on here. We're going to work our way around all this. As it's drying, just watch for puddling and pooling. You start getting big like puddles and blotches building up, then just take the brush over them, dip it in, and manipulate it around. And I wouldn't build it up too heavy on the pipes, the cables, I mean the blue cables. But towards the ends, towards the joins where they join the metal, that's quite nice. Those darker metal tubings that we've done, the ribbed ones, get it all over there, that's fine. Make those nice and dark. There we go, just take your time, work this around. And that's what I'm going to do now, and then we'll come back. So that's the black wash applied, and next thing we're going to do is we're going to revisit the metalwork, give that a little bit of, just a little bit more life. The way we're going to do that, we're going to get our Leadebelcher. We're just going to do a very simple dry brush, really, just over all the metal. And what it's going to do is just going to lift up the higher edges. The shading is going to sit really nicely. Just add a little bit more depth and brightness to those metal parts. So if you don't know how to dry brush, well, it's very simple. Bit of tissue, get your paint, and just load up the brush with some of that, and just work it into the bristles on the tissue. So the brush should be dry, so don't dip the brush first. And you'll see on my finger here, as you start flicking that, it starts creating a nice silver sort of sheen. So the brush should be dry. If it's not, then it'll look nice, it'll look all streaky. So this is just a gentle highlight, really. Yeah. So we're going to flick that. I'll do it up on the axe up here. Just going to flick that across, really, like so. You see how that's got a bit of a shine to it? But the trick is we're not going into the depths, into the gaps, into the crevices where all the wash is sitting. We're just flicking it over the top, just to give a little bit of depth, a little bit of a dimension, a little bit of brightness back to the metal pieces. And this can go on the dark piping as well. Just a gentle little flick on there. All the black pipes that we've done, because they are metallic, so I'll just give them a little bit of a shine, but not too much. They'll still be nice and dark. If you go on the blue cables, it doesn't matter too much at the moment. We're going to go back over those a little bit, but if you can avoid them, all the better. So I'm just picking out all the metal pieces. A little bit more of this. Just sort of stabbing that into the bristles, really, as you can see. A little bit too much. There you go. So we're just going to work our way around, pick out all the metals, just offer a little bit of this. And then we'll come back. There we go. So I hope you can see the difference it's made. It's just it is subtle, but I think it is definitely worth it. It's just going to let the details pop. Let's the great sculpting sing, basically. And in the light as well, it looks good. It looks like it's been lit up where it should be. And we're going to do the exact same thing again, but this time we're going to move up to a Runefang Steel. So open some of this, same principle again, loading up the brush, making sure it's nice and dry. And this silver is much brighter, so do be careful, careful not to go overboard on this, but this is just for the real sharpest details and the real highlights. Think about where the light might be hitting here. So like if it's coming down this direction, that's where the model's sort of standing, so you just want to sort of catch the real sharpest details very lightly. It's just going to give it that little extra zing. I'm being real gentle with this one. I'm just being real sparing as well. It's not going all over, just on the sharpest details, the highest points. Things on like the ends of these cables, and down at the bottom there. Picking those out, making them shine, give them a little bit of a separation. Any kind of points of interest here. Keys in here, I'll do on those keys. Looks quite cool. On the top of this mechadendrite there. Especially things like on these sharp edges on the axe, you can just use the side of the brush Just scratch those. Cog blades of the axe. These spiny fingers. That's the general gist. And if you want, you can get a get like a little brush, a detail brush, or a base coat brush, layer brush, whatever you like. Do some extra strong little layers, perhaps on the axe. Strengthen that. Doesn't all have to be a dry brush if you want to pick out some of the finer details, like the blades of the axe there and these points on the top up there. I think they'd be nice and shiny. If you want to maybe pick out the little rings that are sort of wrapped around some of these pipes and cables, I'll just pick those out. Hope to bring those to life. There we go, but it's up to you really how much or how much or how little of this you want to do. Might touch a little bit of this up at a later date once the model's finished, but I think that's pretty good. Just giving, so we've got the base of the metal colour down, we've given it some shading, we've brought it back a bit just to give it depth, and we've done some extra fine highlights there just for some extra points of interest. You know, with those little steps you can make just a solid colour, silver. You can make it really sing, really come to life. Be interesting to look at. There you go. So now that we've got the silver down, what we're going to do, we're going to revisit the Thunderhawk Blue again. We're just going to pick out those cables that we've done again. So we did a base coat on them, and we washed them, darkened them down, and all the edges and all the joins and cracks. But I think especially a lot of that dry brushing, we've lost a lot of that colour again. So we're just going to bring that back. Let's bring that blue back. And I'm not painting. See where it joins here. See where it joins to the atomizer. See, I'm not painting all of that. Just sort of painting almost to the edge and letting the shade still do its thing. Yeah, I'm going to pick those back out again. And like the bundles of here, I'm just painting the higher edges. You don't need to put the paint back into the gaps between the pipes, because they'll be nice and dark, and it'll give it some depth, give it some dimension. Got a bit of paint on the cable there, so I'm quickly wetting the brush and just scrubbing that away. A little trick there for you. But yeah, so I'm just bringing some of these blue bits back to life. I've gone a bit heavy on the dry brush over some of them, so just rescue that colour again. And there we go. So I'm going to work around and pick out the blue bits again where I've gone over them too much, or I just want to highlight them, and then we'll move on. Ah yes, so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to move on to all the armour bits. So it's all on his belly and down his back here, and on his face, up on the top there, up on his shoulders and stuff, and this little ornament piece on the top there. I'm going to do all of that. So anything that you think is more designated to be armour, could be some on the axe up here, around there. So do as much or as little as you like, but definitely these armour plating pieces there. Anything that's supposed to really be armour. We're going to now pick out in the Runelord Brass. So we've got the brass open here, and just going to load some of that up on the brush, giving it a good shake. It's got a nice consistency to it at the moment. It's always important to treat your paints, so I like to just dip some water in the pots, shake them up, and once they've got a nice flow, you can see them sort of flowing off the top of the lid here. Normally means they have a good flow. So we're going to start with, we'll start up top. We'll do this thing up here. So I'm just going to cover all of this in this nice brass. It's a really lovely colour, this. It's quite a cold brassy colour. It just seems to work really well, especially when we start adding the grey and the purple in the later videos. There we go. You don't want the whole thing to be silver, do you? It's like a little bit too much, maybe a little bit, dare I say, a little bit boring, but I don't know. It's entirely up to you, really. There we go. And you'll find that this on top of the silver, nice smooth thin coat. So on top of the silver that's already been shaded, this is going to come out really nicely. You'll probably get away with just the one coat. There we go. So that's that. Do some more. I might pick out a couple of bits on the axe, like this plate up here. Just being nice and neat, making sure that's not to get it on any silver bits we've already done. There we go. So I'm painting the armour here, just picking out all the plates, all the bits, trying hard not to get it on the metal I've already done. Some of his limbs have got these little shoulder pads, which look like shoulder plates. I'll pick those out too. Some of them just look a bit more like part of the arm, so I'll leave those. Give it a little bit of distinguishable. There we go. So that's the main plating. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and pick out just some other little bits and bobs that I think would look good in this more sort of armoured brass colour. And that's going to give it's going to give the model a bit more personality. It's going to break up a lot of that silver again. Give it a bit more of another point of interest. So I'm going to do that now, and then we'll move swiftly on. There we are then. So once you're happy with all the bits of Runelord Brass, we can move on. Just you can see where I put them. It's like some ribbing on there, and all down there. Little plate on the back there, up on the axe, a couple of little bits, and on the ends there, just to break up all the detail on the solar atomizer here. Just give it a little bit more interest, I suppose. I might add some more little bits later on, but I think for now I'm pretty happy with that. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to wash them. Okay, so I've got a sort of mid-size wash brush here. We're going to grab the Agrax Earthshade, and we're just going to slap this all over the brass that we've done. All over the back there. Just going to darken that down, give it a real nice brown tone. That's it. Give some good shading as well. Just work it all into the gaps and the joints, like so. And again, the beauty of the silver primer, the silver spray that we started with, that brass, one coat. That's all it needed. Just do the one coat, and you put the shade on it, and it's looking lovely. There we go, so we're going to fill all that in. And as it's drying again, just watch out for puddling, pooling. Well, that's looking pretty nice, I think. See the difference that makes? It gives it just that nice warmer, it's a nice, more natural sort of look. Put it all at the top here, you'll see. It's a real sort of natural, lovely shade. Washes are fantastic, they really do bring stuff to life, you know. Put that all around there. But yeah, I'm going to work this around. Just fill in all the bits that you've painted with brass. Give them all a nice Agrax wash. And we'll move on from there. Okay, so that's the Agrax Earthshade, nice and dry, and we're going to highlight the brass now. I'm just going to use my just my standard brush and take the brass back. And it's not really going to be a dry brush. Well, it sort of is, but there's still a reasonable amount of paint on the bristles there. You know, so it will run off, but it's not like, it's sort of like a moist brush, if you know what I mean. Like so it's still got a reasonable flow, but it's not like painting it over again. Just flicking a bit of the paint back onto the details. Just highlight them again. In on the top. Just paint a bit of that brass back on there. Like so. Flicking that on. See how that's got a bit of a shine to it now? There we are. And so I'm going to, all these sort of ridges really, the higher bits, I'm just going to jot a bit of the paint back onto those. And around the sort of main curves. Like I said, if it is an almost sort of dry brush, that works quite well. It's the same principle really. Just flicking a bit of that back on, give it that nice shine, nice highlight. So we're going to do that around all the bits that we've washed. And then we're going to do a nice little finer, brighter highlight after that. Just a little bit. And then we're almost done. So you can see I've just covered the sort of main areas with a sort of very gentle sort of almost dry coat of the same brass again, just to bring those back to life. And then what we're going to do, we're going to take the Runelord Brass and a bit of the Runefang Steel. I'm going to make a mix with those, sort of half silver, half brass, just to get a real bright, nice little bright highlight there. And you can put some of this just on the finest edges, just a little bit of that just on those fine curvy points, just like that, where the light would be flicking off. This is just your finest, sharpest highlight, this is. You could dry brush this entirely, but it can be a little bit messy sometimes, the dry brushing. It's not always easy to get it exactly where you want. So just a little bit on the brush, don't overload the brush. The brush is sort of just, you can still see a lot of the bristle in there, half full, you know. Just blot a bit of that on the sharp details. And there we go. So I think that's looking pretty good. So it's nice highlight. I'll just put a little bit more right on the top up here. On the X. There we are. I think we're just about there. There we are, so that's the armour plating done, and I've got one last thing I think I want to do. I just want to revisit those cables again, the blue ones, and what I'm going to do is take a bit of the Thunderhawk Blue. I might just drop a little bit of white in there, just for a finer highlight on those cables, just to make them jump out a little bit more. You really don't have to do this, just a nice little quick highlight there. So taking a bit of that, a little bit of the white, just a fraction, just to brighten that up a little bit. There we are. I'm literally just going to run just a line of that where the light might be catching the cable, and that's it. Just a little smidge. A little bit on those bits there. Again, don't overload the brush with this, and you're not painting the whole thing again. You're just sort of painting a nice, just a nice sort of streak along the length of it, not going into the shades. Just sort of picking out where the light might hit. It's just going to help bring those out a bit more, because they were looking a little bit dull amongst everything else. And yeah, that's simple, that quick. Just has to be just a bit like that. One here. Yeah, that looks better. Much better. There we go. Go on the back there. Yep, so if you want to add another little extra highlight just to help lift those cables up, just to help bring them out amongst all the metal bits. And there we are. There we are then, there he is, there's the Archmagos, and he's had all his Bionics done. All his silver arms and mechadendrites, the cables, the piping, and the brass armour plating too. There we have it then. So that was episode 1 in Painting Forge Phobos, where in this episode we took a look at all the Bionics, the cables, the piping, armour plating and all that good stuff. Join us next time where we're going to be having a look at Skitari robes and vehicle armour. So we're going to be adding some grey and some flashes of purple to this model. These are really going to start coming to life. If you've enjoyed the video today, then a like and a comment would be very, very much appreciated. And if you'd like to see more of what goes on here inside the Frozen Fortress, then perhaps you'll also consider becoming a subscriber. Once again, whoever you are, thank you very, very much for joining me today. I'm Winter Wizard, that's Dimmu, and for now, keep it frosty.